Hey everybody. I wanted to try to give some kind of objective analysis to this Milo Yiannopoulos controversy that started today and try to dig through the weeds and figure out what exactly is going on here. So on the 18th of February, Milo was announced to be giving the keynote address at the Conservative Political Action Committee 2017. This was directly following his appearance on the Bill Maher show and is at sort of a peak of Milo's public awareness, if you want to say. Milo was set to give a speech covering his experience battling third-wave feminism, the media, left-wing college professors, Black Lives Matter, violent activists, and progressive elites in the entertainment industry, which, in all fairness, is the typical topics that a Milo speech would cover. The controversy at hand appears to have originated from a Twitter account called the Reagan Battalion, which claims to be a source for news, information, and commentary from a conservative perspective. Looking at their website, it appears that they are some sort of aggregator of conservative news, hosting the images of a bunch of different conservative outlets on their main page. On Sunday, February 19th, the Reagan Battalion tweeted this video out, claiming to have uncovered Milo Yiannopoulos' introductory video for CPAC 2017. The video in question includes footage from Milo's appearances on The Rubin Report, Joe Rogan's podcast, and a podcast called Drunken Peasants, where Milo appears to say some pretty off-color things. So let's go ahead and break down some of the things that were said in the two video clips that Reagan Battalion is using to paint Milo as a pedophile supporter. Any edits that I make to this clip are purely for brevity. I'll only cut out things that are completely non-pertinent to the controversy. Everything else that I'll leave in there will be specifically to provide you context in exactly what's going on.
Like school, man, for a whole year. Cured me.
Well,
Fixed me up good.
That's where you get your fine sense of right and wrong from. No, wait, let's not do that.
Well, with right and wrong as far as what is right and what is wrong.
With you?
No, I got lucky. They beat me a little bit.
What do you mean you got
smacked
lucky?
Me a
You
little
got
bit.
unlucky. You didn't get that taste of... no, I said, like I said earlier, if it weren't for Father Michael, I would have given far less good head. I mean,
there was a real Father Michael?
So much less... You know, he's going to get killed now, but...
Here we see the first instance of Milo telling this joke about Father Michael. Now, yes, it is a dumb joke. I don't find it funny at all, but it's clearly meant to be a specific joke. It's a comedian's bit. This will, of course, come up later on, so I just wanted to bring it up and point it out.
Who's Father Michael?
I'm not... No, I bet...
Is a real dude?
I shouldn't...
Maybe suck his dick? For real?
Don't make me. I was quite enthusiastic about it. I fucked my English teacher, too. But
How old was he at the time?
I don't know. He's quite young, quite hot.
Really?
Yeah.
And so that's where it all started? With Father Michael?
No.
Was that post the tranny?
Yeah, it was post. So I wasn't like I wasn't
drag
abused
queen?
as a child or anything like that.
So
it was quite a.
You already had the fivesome, and you're like, "This is all wrong. I need to talk to Father Michael." He's like, "Suck my dick and shut the fuck up." And you're like, "Religion is awesome."
You see, I really had no hope, did I? I was.
Here Milo is expressing the view that he wasn't abused as a child. I think I agree with Sargon's take on this in that if he classifies it in his own mind as abuse, then it removes his agency, and he doesn't like that. However, the psychological underpinnings of Milo's speech here is not really all that relevant to the actual controversy at hand.
I was never going to end well.
Well, it seems like you kept stumbling into dicks. I mean,
I just kept falling on them through life.
I don't know what would have happened if a heterosexual man like me
30 years, I've just been falling on dicks.
Was in the same circumstances as you early on. I mean, obviously things would have went very different. So I'm not sure if I buy the not born this way.
You'd go down great in a gay club.
Go down?
Well, I mean, you know, you'd
How
go down.
dare you?
We have is that a British expression? You go down well.
No,
I don't mean oral sex.
Much. Yeah,
yeah. So go down well means you would you'd be popular. You'd
go
get
down
attention.
well would be like the way you would describe a meal or a drink.
Oh, like it goes down well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, we
like taking the piss.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get what the hell.
Right.
That
Like,
meant.
do you want a cup of my? Yeah. Which again is another thing gay people seem disproportionately into.
They're into peeing on each other.
Well, there seems to be
it's all sin.
There seems to be water sports.
It's all
well,
decadence.
This is it. You
it's
see,
all against the
this
Lord.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People are only gay to be transgressive.
Why
They
don't you just
choose
pray
to
the
be
gay away,
gay to be
Milo?
naughty.
How come you're not praying the gay
They
away?
choose to be gay to be
it
naughty.
Seems like you have all
and now
the
being
right
a
components
homosexual
in place.
I know.
To pray the
I
gay
know.
away.
I just can't
full belief
tear
and
myself
respect
away
for Christian
from the dick.
values.
Can't tear myself away
Come
from the dick.
on.
And I've tried.
Maybe as you get older
Maybe
and
I
your
should be
sex
celibate or
drive
something.
dries up a
I
little
always
bit.
think I would have made a good priest. Do you think I'd make a good priest? I think I'd make a good priest.
Well, you make a
Great
good priest if you think the guy that made you suck his dick was a good priest. That kind of good
He was
priest.
a great priest. Honestly, like he was the.
He was good other than that.
I've never had a better singing tutor. He was great.
Singing
He
teacher.
got notes out of me I didn't even know I could produce.
The atmosphere in this conversation is clearly jovial, and the two are joking with each other. That needs to be said because people are going to say things that they aren't necessarily going to mean in order to get a humorous reaction out of the other.
Well, he worked your plumbing.
Shattering the chandeliers, kind of.
But was he good outside of what he did? Like, was he a good religious scholar? Was he a good teacher?
I think he was just a parish priest. I mean, I
just
really
a fucking creep getting his dick sucked. Then
he's gonna get lynched now.
How's he gonna get lynched? Do people know who he is?
I don't think so.
What's his name?
Well, I'm not saying anymore.
Well, how old were you at the time?
I'm not, just
You were a little kid, and he was like what?
You're trying to.
Was he in his 20s or 30s?
Yet another feminist strategy that you have adopted in addition to your language
What?
policing.
Trying to out pedophiles?
No, trying to go on this.
You were the one who was anti-pedophile
I
earlier.
told you it wasn't the ped.
Joe just outright said that Milo was the one who was anti-pedophilia earlier, which is an important fact that seems to be lost on all the edits of this video.
I was
Well,
after I lost my
certainly
virginity. I was
How
in
old
my
were you?
teens. I was in my teens.
14.
I was in my teens.
You said
Something
you were
like
14.
something like that.
That's what you
I was
said. 14
I
is
was in my
pedophilia, buddy.
teens.
I don't know how they rock it in merry old England.
I was in my teens.
Over
I mean,
here in my country, and
you're saying
fucking where you are right
you've
now,
never
America.
seen a 15-year-old girl at any point in your life, however old you were. You've never seen a 15-year-old girl you thought was hot.
Yeah, when I was
This may on the surface appear that Milo is trying to advocate for this, but he isn't. He's merely trying to express to Joe Rogan that it's not outside of the realm of possibility that somebody could find somebody who's less than 18 years old attractive, which biologically is a fact.
15.
No, when
Thought
you
they
were
were hot as
25. When you were 25.
I'm not retarded, dude.
When you were 25, when you were 30, you will have seen
No.
girls about 15 you thought were hot.
No,
Of
I thought
course
they were
you
little
did.
kids.
No, you didn't.
I thought,
Don't
damn,
talk
she's
bullshit.
gonna be hot, but I didn't want to fuck her.
Bullshit. Like,
No.
Joe Rogan is taking a much more tactful response to this, and he is clearly aware that he is in public and that his statements will be on the record. Milo doesn't seem to care as much.
Bullshit at all.
Look,
You can't tell me what I was born into.
I think if you're 14...
Born like this.
You were born this way. You were born a dreary nitpicker.
No, you're trying to make it so I'm a fucking creeper like you. No, I'm not into 14-year-olds. How dare you, sir? No.
I'm not into 14-year-olds.
Well,
Joe is correct in his assessment there, and he is just simply more aware of what he's saying than Milo is at this point.
Don't put
fucking
this
guy
on
that
me.
you said is a great guy. He was into 14-year-olds.
Fantastic. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
he's a terrible person.
No.
He certainly was.
I was a very mature 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And this is the crux of this controversy. Milo is talking about his individual case, whether he's right or wrong. It's not like he's talking about every case in which this happens. He's lightheartedly defending what he perceives to be something that worked out for him and not anybody else.
Well, in your case, he got it right. You got the right guy to molest.
It wasn't molestation.
That's absolutely
It
molestation.
wasn't molestation. It was perfectly consensual.
And this illustrates the crux of many people's arguments that Milo is rationalizing to himself that it was consensual because he doesn't want his agency to be removed.
I think it is when they're 14.
When I was 14, trust me, I was the predator.
Oh.
I was the predator.
You
at
were the
14.
predator. You
I
were
was
chasing after the
I was
priest.
the instigator.
He was trying to stay
I
close
was
to God.
chasing everybody.
This is one of Milo's key points in both of these discussions, and he isn't necessarily going to be wrong here. It's not outside of the realm of possibility that somebody of that age could be sexually active and like actively seeking that kind of interaction.
I was aggressively seeking out sexual company of adults because I knew it would horrify people, because I wanted sort of power over them. It was my way of rebelling. My way of rebelling. I was the predator at 14, let me tell you.
Do you think that's what's going on with that guy who directed X-Men? Bunch of
Bryan Singer?
Yeah, a bunch of 14-year-old predators going after that poor man.
I'm not sure it's the case with him, no.
That's a guy.
You know, I
who's-
lived in Hollywood a while ago.
Did you?
Briefly. And,
Did you go to one of his parties?
I went to other people who I won't name of a similar stature in Hollywood. I went to their boat parties and to their house parties and things, and some of the things I have seen have beggared belief.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you give us like a...
Well, just... I don't want to be indiscreet about specific people.
Right, you don't have to do that.
It's going
Just dance
to be,
around the facts.
Yeah, dangerous. But I can tell you the truth without dropping anyone in it.
Okay.
I mean, some of the boys there were very young. very young.
And this is really recently?
I don't remember. No, like, I don't know, 8 years ago.
As a side note, this is one of the discussions that has been brought up as a point against Milo, saying, oh, Milo's defending or trying to protect the identity of pedophiles or whatever. It may not be defensible that Milo did not report this when he was actively in the situation, but maybe he was young, maybe he wasn't there, maybe he left right away. Nobody knows if he was actually participating. But at this point on Joe Rogan's podcast, he is a public figure and he works for a news outlet. He legally cannot be involved in accusing any of these people without evidence of crimes committed, and that would be an intensely high level of slander if he were to do that, or at least libel. So he is guarding his ability to say what he wants legally. He's not trying to protect them because they're pedophiles, and he is an advocate of pedophilia.
I don't remember.
Statute of limitations.
I don't remember whether I ever met Bryan Singer or whether I even knew who he was then. But I knew other people of similar stature, as I say, and there were some very young boys around at that time. There was a lot of drugs and a lot of
Twinks.
A lot of twinks taking drugs and having unsafe sex with older men, and some of these boys were very young.
What did you think
desperate
about
for a job, you know.
What Milo is talking about here is well-known phenomenon within Hollywood. I don't see how anybody could say that that isn't something that people are aware of. So let's move on to the Drunken Peasants podcast, which formed the bulk of Reagan Battalion's hit piece on Milo.
And he was like, what?
You're trying to.
Was he in his 20s or 30s?
Yet another feminist strategy that you have adopted.
It's a witch hunt.
I told you it wasn't pedophilia.
Okay, I would say Joe Rogan doesn't normally adopt feminist strategies.
Well, this is, I mean, look, this is a Milo tactic. He used the same tactic on us. I can't believe on this show of all shows that I am arguing this position against you.
I mean...
What a horrible allegation. It's like you've spotted a trend in my argumentative method. How dare you?
Milo freely admits that he is using his typical Milo tactics to discuss this with Joe Rogan, which would obviously include, for someone who is a self-avowed provocateur, things that are outrageous or offensive.
If I knew someone around my age that was like, I just had sex with a 13-year-old, I would be creeped out, honestly.
Yeah, what is your age? What is your age?
I'm almost 35.
Okay, well, I'm talking about 28-year-olds.
Oh, well.
Oh, okay. Well, that changes everything.
Well, you won't
Paul's
hear that
like,
in this
okay,
video,
cool.
I'm sure. I'm guessing, because I've never told this publicly, that you
What an idiot. Doesn't Milo know that the rule is half your age plus 7?
won't hear that in this video. But we're talking about 13, 25, 13, 28. These things do happen perfectly consensually. Often, by the way, it's the women who suffer in these, because it's not what normally happens in schools. Very often, is it's an older woman with a younger boy, and the boy is the predator in that situation. The boy is like, let's see if I can fuck the gym teacher, or let's see if I can fuck the hot maths teacher, and he does. The women fall in love with these nubile young men, these athletic young boys in their prime. And end up having their lives destroyed. They end up having to move schools, move the country, whatever. I would say in the situation I describe in the Joe Rogan show, I was very definitely the predator on both occasions.
What Milo is saying here is that this is an event that occurs with some regularity in society, and it does. You can find examples across the internet of this happening. I don't know for sure if you can say that Milo is making a value judgment on whether it's a good thing or not, but he's clearly only saying that, yes, this is something that happens, and in some cases could theoretically be something that works out between the two people involved.
You know, as offensive as some people will find that, I don't much care. That was certainly my experience of it. You know, I was very much the predator in those situations. But
Milo understands that this is a controversial topic, but he isn't advocating for any specific action on the front. He's only speaking his opinion about it, which, for somebody who claims to be a free speech advocate, is perfectly in line with the rest of his views.
be clear,
Ben, hold on.
we're not
Hold on,
talking-
Milo, 1 second. Ben, you said you'd be creeped out if someone came to you and said they had sex with a 13-year-old, but what if they said, you know, the 13-year-old, they were the predator?
Came on to me.
They came on to me. I mean, it's really. I mean, is it that unbelievable if you have some really horny 13-year-old that just coming at you hard?
TJ's harkening back to the days of when he was 13. It's like,
I mean, yeah.
in my opinion, the person who is older in this scenario would have the onus to deny whatever was happening because he would have to assume that the younger person was not of sound mind to make that decision. That is how we view this kind of scenario as a society, and that is what Milo explicitly says he agrees with, because the age of consent is set, and he agrees with the age of consent as it is set.
If I looked as good as Milo, I'd have been hitting on people. For sure, for sure.
I mean, serious. Is it any wonder I was sexually precocious? Fucking look at me.
Paul, your thoughts.
It was only polite to let them on occasion. The point about all this stuff is we get hung up on abuse. This is a controversial point of view I accept, but we get
Again, Milo knows that his point of view is controversial, but he isn't advocating for any specific change, and he isn't directing people to do it. They are merely his thoughts.
Up on this this sort of child abuse stuff. And to the point where we're heavily policing even relationships between consenting adults, sort of grad students and professors at universities.
Well, actually, Milo, I have a video on consent if you want to watch that.
Well, let's address a little more of this.
I think I'm okay.
I was after I lost my virginity. I was in my teens. I was in my teens.
14.
I was in my teens. Something like that.
But I do have to wonder if Milo is okay with adults getting their cocks.
I reacted the exact same way when I saw his face.
I know.
14-year-olds. What would happen if a 14-year-old wanted to?
Yeah, look at him. Holy shit.
Is that me without my glasses on? Hold on.
It does look like Paul. It's British Paul.
It's British Paul with hair.
Can we put some aviators on him? Can we put some aviators and a hooker in his hand? Can we see what he looks like?
Someone can do that. Audience, make that for Milo.
The whole consent thing for me is once again, it's not this black and white thing that people try and paint it.
Paul has said the exact thing that Milo is talking about here, and nobody has claimed that he is a pedophile, as far as I know. So that's something that should be noted.
Are there some 13-year-olds out there capable of giving informed consent to have sex with an adult? Probably. But I was also a 13-year-old. I hung around with 13-year-old guys, when I was 13, and there were some of them that still thought girls were fucking icky at 13. Like, not many, but they were just coming out of that phase. I don't know that I was ready at 13 to get fucked in the ass by a 28-year-old black drag queen, is what I'm saying. So you can't. The reason these age of consent laws exist is because we have to set some kind of a barometer here. We've got to pick an age and go, okay, look, this is the age where we can reasonably be assured you're an adult, you can give informed consent, you understand the risks and pregnancy risks and all that bullshit.
I think the law is probably about right. That's probably roughly the right age. I think it's probably about okay. But...
And there we go. Milo has said that he believes the consent laws are probably at the right age. He is merely stating that he is of the opinion that there can be outlier cases that don't necessarily match that specific law, something that should be easily agreeable to most people. Whether you support that or not is a non-issue. That's just a mere objective statement of fact.
There are certainly people who are capable of giving consent at a younger age. I certainly consider myself to be one of them. People who are sexually active younger. I think it particularly happens in the gay world, by the way. And in many cases, actually, those relationships with older men. This is one of the reasons I hate the left. This sort of.
Here Milo goes off on another Milo tactic of talking about the left and saying that the left is doing blah 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 blah. It's not substantive, really.
One size fits all policing of culture. This arbitrary
Milo.
This arbitrary.
Let him talk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be quick. This arbitrary and oppressive idea of consent, which totally destroys,
This is one of my major points of disagreement with Milo in this case. I think that it's impossible to set up a system where all cases are covered, and people need to agree on a general age of consent just for convenience's sake. I don't think that there's any possible way that we could set up a situation that Milo would find agreeable. he's wrong. He's utterly wrong, but that doesn't mean that he is advocating pedophilia.
Understanding that many of us have the complexities and subtleties and complicated nature of many relationships. People are messy and complex, and actually, in a homosexual world, particularly, some of those relationships between younger boys and older men, the sort of coming of age relationships, the relationships in which those older men help those young boys to discover who they are and give them security and safety and provide them with love and a reliable and sort of a rock where they can't speak to their parents. Some of those relationships are some of the most
molestation to me.
Milo is relating a personal experience and extrapolating that out to say that there may be other such cases. And I wouldn't say that he's necessarily wrong about that. I don't know. I can't tell you everyone's mind. But what he isn't saying is that everyone should get involved in cross-generational relationships. All he's saying is he had a personal experience. Whether he's psychologically saying that in order to cope with his past experiences, or if he truly believes that, it's a non-issue. He's only talking about facts.
It sounds
well,
like
you know what?
It sounds like Catholic priest molestation to me.
And you know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him.
There's the same joke again. Like I said, it's just a comedian's bit that he's saying. It may be that he is rationalizing it to himself through humor, but that looks like a canned line.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I can't handle it.
It's funny because
what is wrong with you, Ben? Come
gave
on.
me some homework on you.
And it appears to have elicited the exact reaction that he wanted to when he, wrote it or whatever.
Milo. He gave me a few videos to watch to brush up on my Miloisms. And one of the things that you said in one of these clips was that transgenderism is the new, frontier of rights. My wording is bad here, but it's the new frontier of social progress. And the next thing in line is going to be pedophilia. And yet here you are talking about how, look, some of these kids that get diddled by these priests, I mean, it's a good thing for them. They're getting this love. Now they are also getting
You're misunderstanding what pedophilia means.
I consider this to be another Milo fuck up in this scenario. There's no reason to go into that definition. What he said was technically correct, but you should have defended what you were saying on those fronts. You shouldn't be going into kind of a pedantic explanation of what the definition is.
Pedophilia is not a sexual attraction to somebody 13 years old who is sexually mature. Pedophilia is attraction to children who have not reached puberty. Pedophilia is attraction to people who don't have functioning sex organs yet, who have not gone through puberty, who are too young to be able to understand the way their bodies. That is not what we're talking about.
And Coulter?
Granted.
You weren't saying what he was claiming. Here Milo made a distinction saying that pedophilia itself, which is under the definition that he's using, an attraction to people who are prepubescent, is not what they're talking about. And that alone blows away half of the controversy.
You don't understand what pedophilia is if you think that I'm defending it, because I'm certainly
No.
not.
I'm not saying you're defending it. I'm saying you're walking the borderline. You're
that's not what you said. You said I was defending it. And you were wrong.
Fine. I retract my statement, Milo. I retract my statement. I shan't slander you further, but you are advocating for cross-generational relationships here. Can we be honest about that?
Yeah, I don't mind admitting that, and I think particularly in the gay world and outside the Catholic Church, if that's where some of you want to go with this, I think in the gay world, some of the most important, enriching, and incredibly, life-affirming, important, shaping relationships, very often between younger boys and older men, can be hugely positive experiences for those young boys. They can even save those young boys from desolation, from suicide,
consensual. Hold on.
What Milo is saying here may be true. It may be the case that is how this works for certain individuals. That's not a moral judgment on whether it is right or a moral judgment on whether it can apply to all cases or an advocacy that the laws should be changed or an advocacy that people should go ahead and initiate these. None of that. He's saying that in some cases, this is a positive thing for people, which could easily be true. I don't know. At least In one case, Milo's, it is true. And that's how he feels about it. Whether that's a rationalization or not, doesn't matter. If you're complaining about what he's saying here, you are accusing Milo of thought crime because he has not done anything or pushed for anything or tried to change laws about anything related to this topic. He's merely stating his position on it.
Those things, provided they're consensual. Provided they're consensual.
I'm going to jump to Milo's defense a little bit here because I've read stories of like people losing their virginity, like gay men losing their virginity, and most of the stories do seem to involve, you know, I was 14, I was 15,
sure,
he was 20-something,
yes.
and all this stuff. And, you know, I mean, it does.
And there we have a confirmation that this, in some cases, has occurred.
More common in that community, so whatever.
I just don't see, just because I was sexually precocious doesn't mean that I'm going to say that every 13-year-old who has sex with a 28-year-old is fine. I don't know, because I don't know the specifics of that case.
And there you have it. Milo is saying that as he is not putting a collective brush on this. He is talking from a position of individualism and saying that in his case, he feels that it was fine.
I'm not saying that every relationship involving those ages is fine. I have said many times that I consider myself an outlier.
I want to play.
Milo considers himself to be an outsider, but that doesn't change his position on the issue as a whole.
Play a video about consent by a feminist.
And so there you have it. That is the end of the video that was taken by Reagan Battalion to show that Milo is pro-pedophilia. So armed with this context, let's go ahead and watch the video that Reagan Battalion posted on Sunday night, 2 days after Milo was announced to be speaking at CPAC.
The alt-right people. The alt-right people, the people who like me. Statistical facts, Jews are on most of the banks. Jews completely dominate the media, vastly disproportionately represented in all of these professions.
Men don't give a fuck.
But we're talking about 1325, 1328. These things do happen perfectly consensually. Often, by the way, it's the women who suffer in these, because what normally happens in schools very often is it's an older woman with a younger boy, and the boy is the predator in that situation. The boy is like, let's see if I can fuck the gym teacher, or let's see if I can fuck the hot maths teacher, and he does. The women fall in love with these nubile young men, these athletic young boys in their prime. And end up having their lives destroyed. They end up having to move schools, move the country, whatever. The point about all this stuff is we get hung up on abuse. This is a controversial point of view I accept, but we get hung up on this this sort of child abuse stuff. And to the point where we're heavily policing even relationships between consenting adults, sort of grad students and professors at universities. This arbitrary and oppressive idea of consent, which totally destroys, the understanding that many of us have of the complexities and subtleties and complicated nature of many relationships. People are messy and complex, and actually in a homosexual world particularly, some of those relationships between younger boys and older men, the sort of coming of age relationships, the relationships in which those older men help those young boys to discover who they are and give them security and safety and provide them with love and a reliable and sort of a rock where they can't speak to their parents. Some of those relationships are some of the most
molestation to me. It sounds
like
you know what? It sounds like Catholic priest molestation to me.
And you know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him.
It's clear that the video edited and put out by Reagan Battalion is one of the most uncharitable possible edits of what Milo said, even ending on the pre-canned joke that I pointed out before. The conversation that Milo had with Joe Rogan was posted on September 30th, 2015. The follow-up on the Drunken Peasants podcast was January 4th, 2016. So these videos have sat out there on the internet in public for more than a year and are just being brought up now. Days after Milo gets announced to be giving the keynote speech at CPAC and shows up on the Bill Maher show and is at a height in his popularity. So Milo released a statement publicly on his Facebook page. You guys have probably already read this, but I do want to point out that he specifically names the 3 pedophiles that he has outed in his career as a journalist. And he also makes reference to the multiple times that he has criticized both the left and the media for normalizing pedophilia. According to his own history, it is very obvious that he is not in favor of pedophilia. He has specific views on a certain subset of relationships that may or may not exist. That doesn't mean that he morally accepts the entire concept. This controversy has produced a massive political pylon, with Jake Tapper coming out and denouncing Milo, various figures on the right talking about how terrible Milo is, Simon & Schuster cutting Milo's book deal, Milo getting cut from speaking at CPAC. This is mission accomplished for the people at Reagan Battalion, who say that they want to uphold conservative values, but are really just trying to keep the Republican establishment or the conservative intelligentsia happy. This is very obviously a political hit job. And given that this has happened to so many different people, you would think that people on the right would be able to identify it as such on its surface. It took me an hour to go ahead and look at all the footage involved in this controversy. It's pretty obvious that Milo isn't advocating pedophilia, but any number of sources and articles will paint him as somebody who is pro-pedophilia, even after his entire career has been spent fighting against it. Free speech and its advocacy has been a core concept of Milo's career, and many of his fans and many of the people who support him also support free speech. But any of those people who are coming out against him and screaming right now and trying to get him deplatformed and trying to get his book deals erased and trying to get any number of different terrible things to happen to him are violating that principle. Milo has the right to have any position that he wants. He is free to espouse his views. You can disagree with them. I disagree with them. Most people would disagree with them. But he has not called to action. He has not advocated for the change in any laws. He has not tried or acted in any way to make these views a reality across society. They are simply his views. So saying that this is something that you can shut down or try to erase or try to, ostracize is going against the very principles of free speech that Milo and his huge following claim to uphold. The bottom line is, you have every right to disagree with Milo. You have every right to say, that's fucking stupid. I don't think that that's a good idea at all. I don't think that I agree with what you're saying. You don't have the right to deplatform somebody when they have not explicitly advocated or pushed for or acted upon those views. Disagree if you will. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with smearing Milo Yiannopoulos as some kind of pedophile or pedophile supporter when he has not said such, advocated for such, or acted in such way. In doing so, you violate the principle of free speech that Milo stands for and that you supposedly would stand for. Here you can see the Reagan Battalion specifically saying that Milo is advocating for child rape legalization and trying to say that Milo is indefensible because if you want to defend him, you are only here whatabouting the Democrats. Explicitly wrong. And here we can see that this controversy is politically manufactured. Reagan Battalion says, "A win for conservative values and principles. Thank you to everyone who spoke out." They are celebrating the fact that they have deceptively used footage of Milo Yiannopoulos to paint him as a pedophile and do damage to his political reputation. This is wrong. Milo Yiannopoulos is not a pedophile. The claims that are being made against him by his political opposition are engineered to smear him at a peak in his popularity. They are aiming to no-platform him, they are aiming to destroy his reputation, and they are aiming to sow division and strife within those who support him. He should not take the bait of this attack. He can easily defend it, and there are many people out there who will defend him on it. it is incredibly important that we all collectively start to immediately debunk things that are obviously political smear jobs like this. The minds of the public are still in a situation where they can be warped by the mainstream media's hegemonic control of information flow. But it is clear once you look at the actual evidence they are trying to present in their own manner that their allegations are false. That needs to be spread. We cannot be in a situation where we're jumping on with media narratives. It's happened over and over again for the last 20 months at least. And that is the source of their power. Their power only exists as long as you believe the things that they're telling you. And if you don't go ahead and look at it yourself, then why wouldn't you believe it? Particularly because Milo is such a controversial figure, it is going to be very easy for them to convince people who already don't like Milo that he has this flaw. That makes it all the more important for people who are objectively trying to look at this stuff to push back against narratives such as this one. I've watched a whole bunch of different takes on this topic, and many of them from people I respect who don't appear to have any agreement that this was a political hit job. It very obviously is. And looking at the evidence of how the actual timeline of how this played out, it's obvious that this is a hit job. So we need to not fall for it, and we need to push back against it. And that's what I'm doing here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good one.